Hello everybody, I'm the developer behind Swine Studios. I'm going to be showing you how in 7 days, I was able to turn this into a finished strategic survival game. I had a week before school, and was going to make the most of it. I'd spent about 4 hours on this project previously as a submission to the Blackthorn prod passed the game jam, where a different developer takes up the project each day. Unfortunately, nobody decided to do anything with this prototype, so I took it into my own hands. The movement system needed to be adjusted a little in order to allow for the mechanics I had planned. The game was going to be about army snakes building a giant line of troops in order to defend their eggs from predators. I wanted each segment to have its own health and be destroyed if it ran out, so I needed to make a system that would allow for any segment to be considered the head. I also wanted the player to have a lot of freedom in their playstyle, so I needed to make a bunch of different segment types. The first new ones I added were turrets. Accidentally spent all day playing with friends. Got back into the groove again today. The game loop is almost finished. There's a wave system in place that sends out enemies to attack your eggs. Once all enemies are sent, it gives you the choice of adding 3 different segments to your snake. Once you choose one, the next wave starts and it gets a little bit harder. I wanted the player to scale and power along with the enemies to keep up with the increasing difficulty, so I'm making a document to put all my segment type ideas together. The ones I consider more valuable will be given as options later into the game, while the weaker ones will be available right at the start. I also started work on the art. Actually went crazy doing the artwork today. I don't usually find that flow state when doing art, but today it felt like I was just gliding through it. All of the segment types I have ideas for now have artwork. I still need to come up with the enemy ideas and make their art, but this is some incredible progress. I also added functionality to a lot of the segments, and everything is coming along nicely. I have a lot of polishing work to do, but I am definitely on the right track. The game loop is complete, and it can now be played continuously. However, it does need some balancing and better visuals for sure. I created the background art and artwork for the eggs, which I believe looks really great. I also implemented some nice little features such as eggs spawning slightly randomly in a closed range, so each run will be minusculely different, but still fair to all the others. I also imported a text font, which makes the game look more army-y, and it greatly improves the UI. Weekend is coming up, and it's time to kick it into high gear. A lot was done today. I drew the animations for the fox enemy, I added a hit flash effect to enemies, I made an explosion animation, I added a bunch of different trap type segments, I then finished the functionality of every segment type, which, let's go ahead and run through that really fast. Jeep just drives, tank is average turret, sniper shoots hard but reloads slowly, engine makes you faster, wheel driver makes you turn faster, minigun shoots a lot, missile shoots big explodey, medic segments, guard segments, stinger drops a lot of spikes, puncture drops big spikes, bomber bombs, and the mine layer lays mines. Fixed the layer clipping issue when driving over yourself, created wave number UI, made it so that every time you restarted you would get a different snake, but with a still equal build, meaning you'll always get some higher tier and some lower tier segments. Looking through the artwork, oh crap, I forgot the helicopter. Made the helicopter follows enemies independently, created the art for a tanky boar enemy, incorporated the tanky boar enemy into the game, made a swarm spawn system where multiple enemies can spawn in groups instead of always being spread out. Now the game goes a little faster while still being difficult. A lot can get done in 9 hours. In order to get people to continue playing, there needed to be some objective. I added in a leaderboard to give players that drive to beat each other. I already made a leaderboard in Mind Blown, so I just needed to adjust the code I had already written. The leaderboard is a little bit more complex in this game though. I wanted to save the player's time and wave number in their score, so it would rank players out of best wave first, then lowest time. In order to do this, I needed to encode the values into a single one. It was actually kind of fun and was a real use for all the algebra I've learned. I also polished a lot of stuff. The death screen now slowly fades in instead of just popping up out of nowhere. I also got rid of bugs that came from one object being destroyed by multiple others in a single frame, which, thank goodness I saw that. I made the art for a mongoose enemy, which I think turned out pretty good. I then coded it to be a rusher type enemy with lower health but much faster movement speed. For the menu, I really like it when it feels interactive and not just some screen put in there for the sake of getting into the game. So what I did was not make a menu. When you restart the game, it shows all of this title UI and some basic information of how to play, and then as soon as you pick an option for a segment, all of the menu UI slides away and you get right into the game. I learned players don't much like tutorials, so I'll let them figure out strategies on their own. Balancing is actually really hard. You tweak some values and you think everything's fine, but then everything else is affected too. It isn't as simple as buff this, nerf that. I wanted to make the game fast-paced and strategic. I want the players to be able to build whatever kind of snake they want, but still force them to think of good combinations in order to last the longest. After about wave 3 though, the enemy spawn was far too large to be able to handle, no matter what you did. What I did to alleviate this was lower the spawn number increase, but buff the enemy health by a multiplier that increases each wave. I also gave the player the ability to choose 2 upgrades instead of 1 once they reach wave 4. So, turns out, a really easy mistake to make, I made it too difficult. My friends provide some great feedback. I upped the initial movement and turn speed to help some of the frustration surrounding the unresponsive controls. In order to still make the engine and dual driver worthwhile upgrades, I greatly increased their impact of the movement to go with it. I added a feature where you could press the space key in order to get your top car to move to the back. This allows rammers to have a lot more control over their strategy. I then added more control options because people were not fans of the directional movement I had in place. There's now the ability to change to full counterclockwise/clockwise rotation, or a mode where the snake follows your mouse. See ya!